Hello, and welcome to week 3 of your Liminal coaching course. I'm Mike Parker. In this session, we will be preparing to use a development of the rewind metaphor from NLP. It is unlike the other 3 guided relaxations in the course, as it involves more interactivity and explicit instructions to use the scenario in a given way. It makes it possible for you to focus on a particular repeated pattern of triggered emotion and process it. It is useful in working with phobia, trauma, and PTSD. While you might want to get professional help with serious incidents, you also may find the privacy provided by the process here enables you to approach painfully charged patterns you otherwise wouldn't. After a great deal of reading, research, and practical application, it seems to me that there is a similarity between phobia, trauma, and PTSD. That similarity is emotionally charged memories that have not been processed during REM sleep. To briefly recap on last week, dreaming in REM sleep performs the vital function of processing emotionally charged memories so that the emotion is substantially discharged and the memory is put onto your narrative timeline. It is given a place in the chronological sequence of your memories. If REM does not process a particular memory, then it remains charged with all the original emotion and has no position in time. As a result, when some external event, one that has a similar pattern, triggers the memory, all the original emotion is re-experienced and new emotion added to it. It feels like it is happening now. There is a sense of, oh no, this is happening again. The external event that triggers this response may not even need to be that similar if the stress reservoir level is up. We are reasonably sure that memories fail to get processed through dreaming when something bad happens to us that we can't do anything about at the time. So not surprisingly, much trauma, phobia, etc. come from our childhood. For those interested in reading about the widespread occurrence of varying degrees of trauma across all demographics, Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, provides insights from a lifetime of working with trauma. The guided relaxation provided this week enables you to work through any repeated trigger patterns that you're conscious of and from which you would like to be free. Let me give an example. For decades, if someone came running down the stairs, I would start tensing up. My heart rate would increase, my stomach would clench, and I would prepare for fight or flight. This pattern was the result of the childhood experience and unprocessed memories of this particular sound, which was immediately followed by someone yelling at me. To deal with this, it was only necessary to identify one particular incident that triggered the response. It was not at all essential to dredge up some original memory of the first incident. Being able to use just one episode is part of the power of this technique. Processing one remembered event where the trigger occurs results in the processing of the emotional charge from all the related incidents, including the original ones. I should say that the base first half of the guided relaxations that remains the same contains indirect suggestions facilitating the processing of many minor unprocessed memories. This is part of clearing the backlog. So this guided relaxation is for your use when you have identified any repetitive and particularly obtrusive pattern you want to process. In preparation for using this guided relaxation, the person wanting to use it needs to identify any representative incident when the response was triggered. They then need to think of this incident as being a movie sequence with a beginning and an end. You will run this movie several times during the guided relaxation. In the recording, you have a specific amount of time to run your movie clip. If that turns out not to be long enough, you may need to jump to the end when time is up, but that shouldn't compromise the effectiveness. If you like, you can use a collage of several different incidents rather than one. It doesn't make any difference. Working with one episode should discharge the emotional energy associated with all of the events that have triggered the response. You also need to develop a series of images and scenarios of what life is going to be like without the looping pattern. There is another resource to help you do that here, called the Solutions Focused Thinking exercise. This tool is a brief guide to how you can use the same process we use in one-to-one liminal coaching sessions for yourself. It can be a pretty useful process for friends and family as well. The purpose is to deliberately start thinking about and creating images and ideas of where you would rather be. First, select what you want to work with. Something to improve, something to let go of, or something to overcome, perhaps. Then ask the question, how would better look? The first response nearly always takes the form of what would not be happening, or what would be absent. For example, I would wake up not feeling anxious. That's fine, and it leads into the next iteration. You can make a list of the main things that would stop if you like. Then ask the question, okay, imagine that is gone, so what would be there instead? Answering this question can take a little more reflection, and that's the point. Allow images and ideas to form of what would be happening in your preferred outcome. If you made a list of the main things that would stop happening, you can use that to go through. If you find the answer is again more about what would not be happening, repeat the question. If that is not there, what is? Allow images and ideas to form of what would be happening in your preferred outcome. Iterate the question above as necessary. Explore how that would feel. Would you be pleased? Would anyone else be pleased? Explore the feelings and images and ideas of what would be happening instead. What about your life changes? What would become possible? How would it affect your relationships, your work, your pleasure in living? The recording will prompt you to use the images and scenarios of life without this pattern towards the end. This part is the reframing, where you give your subconscious the new pattern for the future, which is replacing the trauma trigger pattern. Before working with this week's audio, take a break to do the preparation work. If you are lucky enough not to have any obtrusive pattern that you can think of, then you can use this same technique and recording to process and let go of anything that has angered you or otherwise thrown you off balance in the recent past. This recording is not really suitable for your nightly listen as you go to sleep, so please continue going to sleep listening to Drift to Peace, which will help consolidate the process if you are using the rewind session. That's it for this week. Next week, we look at beliefs, how powerful they are, and how they function to create our experienced reality. Have a great week. See you soon.